Good evening, everybody. It's my great honor to ask and welcome our speakers here, fashion designer Anita Dongre, interior designer Shalini Misra, and interior designer and design content creator Ridhi Khosla Jalan on stage, please. Thank you, ma'am. You're here. You can be anywhere, wherever you prefer. They vanish, but you can be wherever you like. Yeah, Ridhi's alright. Yeah. Sure, Shani, you're here. Right next to you. What name?
It's in the name tags.
Good evening, ladies, and it's such an honor to have you three here, three stalwarts from the industry. And my first question to all three of you is, the Indian design landscape is undergoing a profound metamorphosis, be it in spaces or in fashion. How do you find a delicate balance in integrating modern design elements with traditional Indian craft? We'll start with you, Shalini.
Well, I think this metamorphosis, as you said, with Indian craft and contemporary design is really my mantra. So thank you for the question. I think it's much needed at this hour. We all know how fabulous our craft is, how fabulous our artisans are, but they cannot be doing the same thing generations after generations. So I think it's nice to give them new, and we have great design thinkers in our country. It's nice to have design thinkers from outside to come in and actually expose them to what is out here. I first discovered Tikri mirror tiles, which are hand-blown glass mirror tiles, in a showroom in Belgium, in Brussels, and there was a lady called Emery and C. She was exhibiting it. So I started using them in my projects, and now I see that that simple crafted, beautiful object is used in so many restaurants and bars, and I love them. And similarly, there's so many other materials like pietra dure, marquetry, the jali fretwork, the amazing handloom industry that we have, the textiles. And I think it's very easy to give them a contemporary edge and give them a new leash of life and use it.
And ma'am, you.
Rasna, it's so important to contemporize craft. In fact, I have got an example right here. I met this artisan in City Palace, Jaipur, and he was restoring the palace. And obviously today there are no more palaces being built. So he has this amazing craft, and we really sat down and said, how can we utilize this craft and make it contemporary? So we have the hand-painted clutch, which any young girl, any woman can own, and it's hers forever, and it's a piece of craft that she carries. So examples like these, where you take traditional crafts and you make them relevant and contemporary for today's woman.
But you do that a lot in your design. We see that in your clothing as well.
Yes.
Where, I wear them as separates all the time, and they kind of become those modern pieces that are in my wardrobe, whether I want to go from a traditional look to a daily look.
Yes, that's exactly the point while creating and designing them, that you enjoy them, love them, and rewear them.
Yeah. And Ridhi, what do you feel?
I think India is known for its craftsmanship, but as a designer, I think we've seen a shift in what our clients want. I think about 10 years ago, everyone was so inspired by the West that a lot of designs became a lot more minimalistic, simpler, straight lines. But now if you talk to a client and you say, let's be inspired by India once again, they're a lot more open to it than they were maybe 10 years ago. So when you bring them a traditional craft and you say, let's modernize it, earlier, they wouldn't be as willing to put it in their home, but now it's a celebrated concept. Now they rather have an Indian craft in their home than import something from Italy or other parts of Europe. So it's really nice to see this shift, and it's very encouraging. We have about 3,000 crafts in India, of which 300 are for interiors. And I think according to the last report by the government, only 10 to 15% are being, taken down to the next generation. So it's literally our generation that has to preserve these crafts, otherwise they're going to vanish. So it's really nice to see clients supporting that in our country.
Ma'am, my next question is to you. As someone who has actively worked with Indian artisans and helmed several initiatives to empower women in craft, what are the key factors in fostering positive socio-cultural impact?
I think giving, one is they already have the craft, they have the technical, they have the skill to be able to do what they do. It's designers like us who come in and ensure that whatever they do is relevant. But I think giving them sustained employment is for me the most important role that we play. And that employment has to be sustained. It can't just be one-off. And that's something we all focus on a lot as a company.
And Shalini, I have a question for you. Art plays a major role in your work. How do you integrate in personalizing design spaces and elevating client experiences?
So art is a real passion, and I think now I have a lot of clients who actually understand art, and some of them have an amazing collection of art. So for me, it's just placing the art, and some of those works of art are so special that I really have to quieten my interiors just to make those arts highlighted. But I think art speaks a certain language, and I also do a lot of art curation for hotels. So for example, a banyan tree hotel will have a very different type of art than a more party type of a hotel. So I think you can create a certain mood with art, and that's quite exciting. And there's so many different forms of art now. It can be a sound art installation, it can be video, it can be photography, oils, etc., etc. So I think there's a lot to play with art.
And ma'am, coming back to you, you do the same, right? When you're designing, whether it's bridal wear or whether it's ready to wear, also the many brands that are under the umbrella of the big brand, how do you go about differentiating them and kind of creating an individual identity for all of them?
For all the brands, it's the design language in each one of them. So a lot of them use crafts, but they'll use it with a different perspective, which is part of the design language of that brand. Very difficult to answer this, Rasna, without giving examples.
We would love to hear an example.
It's, for example, when we work with the Seva women, if I'm doing a collection for grassroots is, in that sense, more contemporary day wear, so there'll be a lovely separate. And if I'm creating a Seva garment in Anita Dongre, it will be a huge bridal lehenga and done in Seva, and then further embellished with gotapati and, with a lot of more zari to make it more bridal. So it's that same craft, probably the same artisan, but I interpret it in two different manners, and I find that very exciting.
Ridhi, you have successfully created a wide audience on social media with your captivating perspective on design, aesthetics, and the art of living. What are the key factors you have adopted to engage and be relatable online while offering comprehensive insights?
I think Indian design, when it comes to fashion, has been celebrated worldwide, and Anita Dongre is a brand like that. But unfortunately, when you talk about interiors and home interiors and design, the entire world really doesn't even think about India. They think about Europe and Italy or even the US for those Pinterest pictures that you see. But there's so much available in India and people are just not aware. So the purpose of the platform is to showcase what is available in India. And I can tell you on a weekly basis, I get DMs from people around the world, from Australia, from Peru, from everywhere saying, wow, we had no idea there was this kind of design available in India. So that has been the purpose of the platform, and I think people really do appreciate seeing what is new and what is unique in the world of design. So I think that's been quite engaging, and my experience as an interior designer plays its role, and we try to keep it very genuine, very authentic. If it's not something I would use, it's not something that goes on my page. So I think people are able to recognize that.
That's amazing. To all of you, and again I'll start with you, Shalini, what are the challenges you have to navigate while bridging the gap between innovation and sustainability?
I think sustainability is quite a buzzword now, and there's so many different factors in sustainability. So I focus on two things because those are the two things I can control. The rest, really. So I really control the materiality, where the materials are coming from, what is the materials I'm using, and how things are made. I really go into the factories and everything, who's actually making it, how to process it, So I try and do it that way. But I think most contemporary design leaders are really getting into the nitty-gritty of sustainability. And being a handmade country, I think our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation were naturally very sustainable. I think we are the wasteful generation, and I think my children's generation is a lot more careful than me. So I think it's going to come back.
Is there a practice you adopt personally in terms of sustainability that you are quite conscious of? Could be anything little that you do as well.
Absolutely. I think when I started my career as an architect, I had very grounding experience using only sustainable materials, like, just even wind tunnels and things like that. So there's so much you can do climatically to control and conserve energy.
And ma'am, you?
Rasna, for us, innovation is really important with sustainability. For example, as a design house, we've not introduced a line of bags in the last so many years. We introduced the first line of bags just, I think, 2-3 years ago. But for the last 5 years, we've been closely working with Indian manufacturers to find us a leather substitute. We haven't succeeded. We've done so many trials and errors, and there's constant innovation. There are some materials that have worked out, some colors don't work out. So I think for us to be a truly sustainable brand, there's a lot of investment that's going in material innovation, and that will continue. It's going to take a long time, but we're hoping to get a leather substitute that's manufactured in India soon.
I'm sure you will. And Ridhi, you?
I think I'm going to add on both your points. I think the point that Shalini made is that culturally we're actually a very sustainable civilization in terms of using terracotta and different materials. And there is a generation that forgot that. And now we're trying to bring it back. So while we remember, what we use traditionally, we're also using innovation to add to what Anita said just now. I'll give you an example. You have tiles now called carbon craft, which absorbs carbon from the air and creates tiles that you can lay on the floor. So you needed a mixture of technology to be sustainable, but you can also look back into history and see what are really good sustainable materials. So I think it's a mix of both that you need.
Yeah, the next decade will be very exciting. I think right in interiors and fashion, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs and companies working towards far more sustainable materials.
And also you all are working together cohesively. Like I see a lot of designers and interior designers working together.
We need to work together. It has to be, because we have to give them feedback on how the material is. So it's a constant interaction with them.
Have you heard of a brand called Pangaya?
Yes.
Yes, I think they are coming out with a lot of leather substitutes. Yeah. And
we are still looking for a leather that's produced in India. We are working with a leather that's produced in USA, but I still want it to be made in India entirely.
Absolutely. I'll introduce you to her because she's looking for factories to make it.
There's Banoffee leather as well that just won a huge grant, also Indian.
Doesn't work very well for a luxury brand.
Oh, it doesn't
for
work?
a bag, no.
Okay.
We've tried
You
it.
worked with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, you gave the world the first Diwali Barbie doll in collaboration with Mattel last year. What were some of the challenges you had to face in integrating Indian craftsmanship into a collaboration of that scale?
Rasna, to be honest, that collaboration was huge. That doll was sold all over the world. There was no way with that kind of numbers we could bring in Indian craftsmanship. We brought an Indian design. It was a completely Indian-inspired Indian doll, but I couldn't bring in craft. I did try. I couldn't, to be honest.
And Shalini, how do you combine aesthetics and practicality when designing spaces?
Okay. Well, I think like when you're constructing something, it has to be practical, right? Otherwise the building will come down. And similarly, when you're doing interiors, I think you have to be practical. Ergonomics, comfort, all that stuff has to be there. But I try to create a mood. I try to create, a sensory exhibition, feeling whenever I'm designing a space. So like, for example, ceilings. Ceilings are a functional thing, but I always use it as a canvas. It has to house your vents, your lights and all that, but how do you make it beautiful? Do you use a wallpaper? Do you use wall paneling? Do you use different layering? So just adding a layer to things, to the function to make it more exciting and interesting.
And Ridhi, every design has a story to tell. How do you weave cultural narratives into your work?
I think that happens very naturally. A lot of products I talk about are made in India, and it's usually by one or two founders who have a very interesting story as to how they led up to that moment. So I think that ties in their backstory, the Indian culture. I think that does tie in. Like I said earlier, I think the younger generation celebrates India more than the elder generation. So it's always nice to see how they bring the Indian aspect into their product. There's a lot of furniture pieces with Warli or with Bidri or with Tikri, which did not exist earlier. So it's a very natural progression that happens into the conversation when you talk about Indian pieces. Modern, very aesthetically beautiful pieces.
And how do you all foresee the future of design in the context of trends versus ingenuity?
I think we need a lot more Ridhis in India to actually tell us more about, what is out there, because I often follow her Instagram and learn from it.
Oh, thank you.
That, this is also out there. So, trends are important. They come and go, but they are important because some trends are so good that they leave a mark and we keep learning from it. And we all know about ingenuity anyways.
And with you, trends, you do something which is so
No, I
classic
try
and
to
timeless.
do something that's classic. I love it when somebody buys something from me and 20 years later says they still wear it. Nothing makes me happier and more happier than that.
And Ridhi, you?
I think trends and
Especially-
creativity.
Especially, I'm cutting you in here, but especially on social media, because there's every day a new trend, every day a new TikTok video to create. How
It's
do you
a lot
keep
of
that
pressure. It's a lot of pressure to always be on trend. But when it comes to design, I think you have to be, creating new trends because that's how you experiment with design, and then you need to see what sticks. And you have to be creative at the same time. So being sustainable started off as a trend, and now I call it a hard trend. It's something that's just going to stay and be there for a long time. Having very organic, round edges, spaces that just flow, not just squares and rectangles, started as a trend, but now it seems like it's going to be here to stay. So you have to have trends to experiment, and then it stays through time, and you know that it's a hard trend and becomes a classic over time. And 20 years later, you still enjoy the home because, it's a classically designed home in that sense. But you have to be creative. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
But, I think when you use craft, I don't know, something about craft is just timeless. Like all our stores, we use craft in every corner of the store, and even you go into them like 14 years, 15 years later, that's when we first started the store. It's just such a timeless appeal craft has, and that's what's so special about Indian craft.
And also you spend a lot of time thinking about how to use that piece. So you really want it to go down at least one generation, so it stays on and it becomes vintage and it can be
Heirloom
reused.
pieces. They turn into heirloom pieces that you want the next generation to also enjoy.
Would you all like to tell us about that one heirloom piece that you actually treasure the most? It can be from anywhere. It can be interior, it can be a piece of furniture, a piece of jewelry, clothing. I'm sure there are many, but one that comes to your mind.
For me, it's a shawl that my nani gave me. It's a Kani shawl. And it's something that's gone from my grandmother to my mother to me. And she had matching jewelry with it. So I got the whole set. And I have two daughters and I don't know how to split it between both of them. But it's definitely an heirloom piece.
I think it's jewelry that I've inherited again from mom, from Jaipur. It's, definitely my piece of jewelry that mom's given me.
For me, I left with one suitcase to New York 35 years ago, so I didn't have anything much in there. But over time, I've collected various things, and I do like to collect a lot of vintage things. And there's this very beautiful ceiling. I think it must be belonging to some place in Rajasthan. And it's got eglomized mirror, and then it's hand-painted. It has wooden carving. And it's, I put it on top of my study, and I just absolutely love it. And I hope it becomes important to somebody.
Ma'am, my next question is to you. With the House of Anita Dongre foraying into vegan accessories, we were just talking bags and handcrafted jewelry, how do you stay true to the brand's vision while designing across categories? across categories? Now from clothing you are pouring into accessories, into jewelry.
The accessory line is only in Anita Dongre currently, and it's craft based, it's sustainable, so it's true to the brand.
But do you have more fun designing jewelry and accessories now more than clothes, or it's the same?
In which brand?
In the brand, what do you enjoy creating most, whether it's clothes or whether
I think it's the whole look, because when you create the clothes, the accessories, then you know the entire vibe. It's the entire
together,
look.
whole look together.
Yes, it all works together as a look.
Shalini, art plays a major role in your work. How do you integrate it in personalizing design spaces?
I think I use art to create a sensory feeling in a room. So I use art for impact. So depending whether it's a Zen space or whether it's a party space or whatever, so really use art according to what mood I'm trying to create in that space. And sometimes my clients have a fabulous collection of art, so.
And you play with their work.
I absolutely. There's one panel where someone in the audience is actually doing beautiful embroidered wall paneling for a client's house in Geneva. And on top of this beautiful embroidered paneling, there are going to be really museum quality piece of art that's going to be exhibited there. So we've kept the color of the art that's going to be exhibited there and then using the color of the embroidery to complement that art.
And Ridhi, last question to you is, technology is reshaping how we create and experience design. How has it impacted your creative process? And actually, I'll open it to all three of you because I feel technology brings in a different kind of perspective, but it also is a new technique that people are integrating. Like, how are you all modernizing your way of process?
I think when it comes to designing homes, everyone wants a smart home. And everyone wants everything automated. I mean, we're even creating artificial sunlight in people's homes so that they wake up at a natural time, so that, you know, they're healthy and the rhythm is not spoiled. So everything is now smarter, but also more efficient if you're good with technology. So this is something you just have to plan your home for. You leave a lot more electrical points, a lot more places where you think 10 years from now, they could potentially use this for a piece of technology that might come here. You have to design for the future. So technology is just non-negotiable when you're designing a home.
And ma'am, what do you think?
I think same with us. There's a lot of technology happening with materials. Like, for example, you know, I do traditional block printing in Jaipur and Ajrak, but at the same time, we're also working with digital printers who are printing using no water at all. So zero water printing. Now that excites me because that's sustainable. So I think technology and craft for me will always go hand in hand. I like to delve into both these worlds.
Yeah, echoing Anita and Ridhi, I think we like technology because it is more efficient. And there's a lot of digital technology which my team uses a lot, like AI, and for either background generating things or for chats and for, you know, various virtual worlds that really help us in our design process as well, you know. Everything is AutoCAD, everything is 3D, everything is, you know, so as a designer, it helps me a lot also to imagine the spaces. Or what I'm imagining, if it's put, and then you can correct it more easily.
Technology also, I think, is bringing fashion and interiors together. So I don't know if you've heard of e-textiles, where there's technology embedded into the threads. And you have motion sensors or light detectors, whatever technology you want to embed. And if you just put your hand in front of the thread, a sound comes out or a light turns on.
Yes, we haven't used it, but yes, I've seen that technology.
Yeah.
And my last question to all of you is, what's that one thing that you wish in the next 5 years should happen in the design world in India? An open wish to all of you if you had a genie, and one wish each.
I wish interior design became more international. I think Indian designers are perpetually going to Milan and Paris for inspiration, but other designers from the rest of the world are not coming to India to be inspired from here. But there is so much that we have to offer, not just craft, but actual new designs that Indians are creating. And I wish to see that on a more global platform, and I think that is happening.
We've already got a presence in New York, in Dubai. We're soon to open in another in another international city. I just like to see Indian design available globally. A lot of my peers are also, I just want us to be out there in the next 5 years.
I really want to focus 2025 in finding the right artisans, craftspeople, giving it a contemporary edge, and then building that up very strongly for the next 5 years with my residency program, the Shakti Design Residency. I have a lot of fabulous ideas, and I hope they all come to fruition.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for this today.
Thank you.
Rasna.